Welcome to Follow Your Joy podcast, where intuition is the doorway to your elevated creativity, more joy, and prosperity. I'm your host, Marla Diane, and I've been living an intuitive life for decades as a creative. That translates to transforming creative entrepreneurs' lives for over 27 years through two businesses as a business strategist and a life designer. And prior to that, an entertainment publicist and talent manager. Follow Your Joy is an entrepreneurial resource for creatives sharing their challenge to victory stories through the lens of listening to their intuition. It's time to make joy your inner GPS for life and business decisions rather than lean on your logic and reason first. You'll not only be following what is most authentic for you, but you will live the beautiful life meant just for you. Want to learn how to access, trust, or up-level your intuition? Join me in the conversation to find out how. Hey creatives, how are you today, tonight, whatever time it is in your part of the world? It's, the tail end of the summer here in the United States. And I'm always grateful, right, to be here and share with you all different types of creatives, right? And one of the cool things about producing a podcast is the variety, right, that it brings to my life. You know, because being a creative, learning something new, it always keeps things fresh. It always keeps things fresh and inspiring, and it keeps you out of discontent. It's a whole other conversation. It's part of things that I coach, but it's so important to keep creating something new, right? To keep that spirit alive in you. So following that thought, I always find it fascinating, right, to learn how creatives best express their true, authentic selves, right? And a lot what I refer to as your zone of genius, okay, which has nothing to do with your IQ. Those of you that are frequent listeners, you know all about that, but all of you that are new, let me explain a little bit about zone of genius. And what it means is what most comes natural to you, what brings you the most joy, your highest creativity, typically what you're getting paid the most of. You're not in what is called an excellent zone that can be a little boring. It's very predictable. It's something you've been doing a long time. You're good at it, but especially as a creative, you can go, okay, what else? What else is there? Anyway, your zone of genius is really your highest creativity, and it's the most fulfilling way to not only live, but to run a business, right? So with my guest today, expressing what comes most natural to her, right, and what brings her joy in her highest creativity is very unique, very unique. Wendy Colonna, did I pronounce that right, Wendy?
Colonna, yeah. Colonna.
Sorry about that. Wendy Colonna calls herself obviously a musician, a mojo maker, love that, and a mentor. She started as a professional musician in 1997, signed to a small label, right, in Louisiana. And then she used her musical talent in her early 20s, and she became a certified yoga instructor and created, I love this, a yoga DVD, creating her own music in that for the musicians on tour, right? Tell me that's not unique, right? In your zone of genius. Now, to me, that's honoring your artistry. It's being courageous to express it, right, to impact humanity. Right? But it doesn't stop there. She was inspired to become then a certified coach, career coach, to help creatives navigate, as she calls, the perils of the music biz, and wanted to use her gifts not just for performance and recording, but really helping others and all sorts of creatives to grow and thrive. Right? So another expression of Wendy, another great way to be creative and create something new is her Mojo tracks. Her Mojo tracks are unique, personalized affirmations set to a resonant musical track. Of course, oh, perfect. So merging what she says, the neuroscience behind the power of affirmations, okay, with the profound science behind sound healing. I love that. Many of us use sound healing, right? And those, what are those called? The sound
singing bowls.
That's it, the bowls, right? So very good. So Wendy says, I've always been sparked by how deeply music inspires personal growth. Amen. She's devoted most of her life loving and lifting people up through music and mentoring. So let's welcome Wendy Colonna.
Hi, Marla.
Hi.
I'm so happy to be here.
I am happy to have you. Yeah, wonderful. So let's start off with you sharing, just some of your highlights. I've just summarized, obviously, your life very quickly, but yeah, give us some really kind of compelling highlights of what's happened and really what led you to music in the first place, right? And then, of course, the transformational space.
Okay. Gosh, I mean, as a kid, I was drawn to music, and it was just a really natural thing for me to do, create. I remember at one point I liked writing poetry, and I had learned a bunch of songs on my guitar, and I was like, oh, I was listening to maybe like, some record, the Simon and Garfunkel, and I went, wait, I write poetry and I sing, and I probably could write a song. And then started just composing, innocently, as just a form of self-expression. And when you're a teenager, it's just emotional synthesis and release. I mean, I guess it's not just only for teenagers, but um and then in college I had a partnership with another young singer-songwriter, and we just kind of landed. I was planning on moving abroad and going to school in another country, and we had been performing a lot, and we landed a record deal. And then it was weird, but it was what led to the next thing and the next thing, which was 9 albums later. Here I am, 9 full-length records later, and 20 something years. So I've seen a lot. Like, that was 97 when we got signed, and that record contract was about an inch and a quarter thick and had greatest hits clauses in it and all kinds of absurd things that people don't even consider anymore in the digital economy, or if you can call it an economy. But yeah, I've seen it all. I think I went from, height of record sales years to the lowest of all times. It's been a real journey, but all in all, music is for the people. It's for the soul. It's for the body. It's the place where we forget our differences and come together in a resonant, harmonious way. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, sure. So where then did the love of personal growth get merged into this?
Oh, man. I mean, I think I got lucky and discovered yoga at a pretty young age, in my early 20s, and just got really serious about it. At first, I was just into it. I started with Ashtanga, so it was just this really athletic practice that just, wrung me out and made me feel calm, which I'm a highly enthusiastic person, so very little does that. And so I noticed whenever I was working out at a boxing gym and working with at-risk youth during the day and making music at night, and found that Ashtanga program at the boxing gym. And when that teacher left, I realized that I needed to go find Ashtanga somewhere. And so I started to study yoga, took a teacher training in my early 20s. A few years later, I started teaching, and I worked with a cool team of people to make a yoga DVD for musicians, as you said. And I ended up doing this, all of the music behind it with some beautiful world musicians here with all of these beautiful mantras and chanting. So sound healing and mantra and that whole bedrock has been in my world a long time.
Mm.
But I also, my compositions aren't, I play in the R&B and gospel and soul space with my music. So it's not, and a little pop. So it's not like I'm doing esoteric music all the time. It's just there are threads of that weave through everything else. And so that's where the personal growth part sort of, it's all woven together, and the creative process is these songs are synthesizing, moments from the journey of life that capture who we've evolved into after, a bout of rough stuff. And that's just kind of where I live. That's the space in which I've lived as a writer, as a creative, as a helper, as a teacher.
Mhm.
And so I had my son. I I went from the road life, 100% road life, to getting married, becoming a bonus mom of 3 kids, and then having my son. And shortly after my son was born, my father passed away. And so I was in a whole new world at that moment.
Mm.
Um, Postpartum hormones, the death of a parent, a complicated relationship, sorting through that, and not my marriage, but with my father. And
Yeah.
I think I realized at that moment, everything was a little fragile, and I said, I as well just bite the bullet and see what coaching looks like for me. Like what it would, I had some amazing coaches in my own life, and I just thought, well, that sounds like a good idea. Let's see what it's like in that world. And at first I started working with artists, but now I work more than with artists, with just soulpreneurs, people who are living their purpose and who are in a path of getting out of their own way so that they can do the good work in the world. And that's sort of all creatives live under that umbrella for the most part. So it's a joyful place for me to sit in the space of love and support and accountability, and helping people find the most pleasurable way to do the thing.
That's right. Following your joy. Let me tell you that.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. I mean, I
Mhm.
was like, oh, that sounds like a podcast I could be totally into.
All right. So what I do is, as I'm listening, is I like to kind of connect the dots. Right?
Okay.
I like to, what I'm seeing, obviously, and you being a coach, you understand that it's your evolution, right? It's exactly how it needed to happen, right, to get you where you are today. So it's sort of it's like a beautiful tapestry. Uh,
Mm,
really what went on in your life to, develop what it is today. So awesome. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Hats off to you, boy. I know what it takes to, it takes, look, it takes a lot of resilience, courage, right? Curiosity, right? Obviously vulnerability and all of that to navigate those changes in our lives and to stay true to who we are the best we can and then evolve that, right?
Yeah. That's a beautiful way of putting it. It's yeah.
Mhm.
It takes those things, but also it's not, there's not a wrong way,
Mm-mm.
you know.
Yeah, no, no. Uh-uh.
So like, yeah, in hindsight I can see the tapestry, and I just have to believe and trust that there's more to reveal itself,
Yeah.
and that we're just at this point on that journey, and who knows, that curiosity really is a helpful tool when things get rough and
Mhm.
weird.
Well, and they can for sure. I
Oh
mean,
my gosh,
the
especially
yeah,
in the music world, and
yeah,
in the world of the arts and tech, like art and tech and AI, and we're in this wilderness all the time. And as much as we can keep evolving and keep navigating and keep finding our people in these new places where they gather, so to speak. I mean, it's just that part alone is perilous, and takes a strong spirit and a determination and a willingness to trip a handful, dozens of times to find out, where those hangouts are, where those places are, where those
Mhm.
the people who we're here to serve, are hanging. And
Mhm.
as it all keeps shifting, we have to
You have to
just
go with it. I mean, and this is a really great kind of segue to talk about intuition, meaning
mm,
where I go, not only myself, I've been an intuitive for a long time, but really honing in on it probably the last 7 years, 8 years. But the point is, and I'm curious, there's a question in here, is that when we navigate life, I always aspire myself, my clients, to lean on first their intuition, not their logic, right? Not what's going on here, but what's going on obviously here from the neck down, which is your intuition. Your intuition's in your body, it's not in your head, right? So, as you were saying about the navigation and getting through all this, how much of that were you relying on your intuition?
oh, different amounts at different times. I mean, I had a good background and a fairly solid foundation in yoga from a pretty young age in my adulthood. And the
Nice.
anatomy of the yogic anatomy, so to speak, really gives beautiful illustrations and diagrams of the different ways we can understand our body, mind, soul, emotional connections.
Mhm.
So, but maturity is maturity, right? and growth is growth, and you don't just get mature because you understand a good map of you know the the nervous system via the lens of yoga, or the koshas, or any of that. You really have to kind of continue to move through it to begin relating it and mapping it to your own body and your own experiences. And so over and over again, I know those maps. I love those maps. I love that I learned how to kind of read those maps as a very young adult, and how science over the last 25 years since I entered the world of yoga education has begun to map on science to the yogic anatomy and all this stuff. So it tickles me because
Mm.
when you're in that state, your intuition knows you're in the right place.
Right. Yeah.
Your whole body says yes. Your whole life starts to be in a flow state.
Right.
All of the things you see around you you know um are just clearer and more discernible, and you feel into the right space. And then we step out of that relationship with the mind body connection.
Mm.
You everything becomes sort of chaotic and disruptive, and you move into the headspace and you start to doubt and question. So
Yeah.
different phases, different times, but I always appreciated knowing that there was that those terms and those ways of navigating. So
Mhm.
feeling into my body, paying attention to what organs were sick when I was not in alignment with, or when I was having self betrayal, because it's inevitable,
Yep.
to cycle through that.
Mhm.
But being able to navigate with my body as the teacher,
Nice.
and
Yeah.
really notice, like, flow state versus resistance state,
Right.
and the data
Yes.
that just reveals itself just by noticing where you're just being magically led, and intersect. You go, oh, I wasn't even planning for that great surprise. And that's when because
Mhm.
so many of the happy accidents in our life are a result of being in the flow state, and then the discipline of honoring our call. They like when I got that Coca-Cola job, I wrote a song for Coca-Cola. It was huge. I was releasing a record at the time. So I was in the discipline
Mm.
of release and of creation and of that just intersected, but it had this wild, I mean, the PR was huge, the ad was on everything. I was on tour, I didn't even own a television, and I
Oh.
was just like, "What is happening?" Like, all of a sudden, my ads everywhere, and but it was a result of the flow state that I was already in, the commitment to,
Mhm.
being honoring this creative
Yeah.
purpose, this record, and it just that's how it goes.
Mhm.
And whenever things feel small and broken
Mhm.
and resistant, you have to ask, where am I betraying myself? Where am I not honoring? Where can I honor? What message? How can I get quiet and listen to what part of my body is talking? So that's how I work with that. It's a
Beautiful.
constant conversation.
Yeah, it's no, it is, and listening to your intuition, in your words, it is a flow state, meaning it's an in and out of that flow state, because we have our beautiful brains, and our brains are always going to want to lead, and we have to tell it what to do. We got to control it, and sometimes it can take its own, no, I'm in the driver's seat. Well, no, you're not. My intuition is. So it's a
Yeah.
constant thing.
Yeah, and I would also say there are seasons.
Mhm.
We don't always live in like on a perfect spring day. I mean, takes the
Of course not.
it takes the cycles of nurturing, growing, planting
Mhm.
into harvesting and then composting the nutrients. Like it is the flow of experience that leads us to the next wisdom. So I also think like yes, we're having to get our brain back in check. And also, we're having to honor that we're actually just moving in this very natural relationship to the cycles of life,
Yeah.
which require us to have grief and loss and
Oh my
composting.
gosh.
And,
Of course.
you know,
Of course.
uh,
Of course.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
it's, and there's grace in that, and
Mhm.
the acceptance of those places too as important
Mhm.
places to be.
It's all the richness of life, for sure.
Mhm.
So speaking of richness of life, let's talk about joy. What brings you the most joy in what you do in your business?
I guess the one thread,
Mhm.
that is the same through every job that I do, so
Mhm.
I wear multiple hats, but co-creativity,
Mhm.
whether it's working with source energy to write or to working with other artists to produce or being co-creative with my clients to build a life that they feel is aligned with their soul. Or making a mojo track, which is a reflective activity of you know co-creating these affirmations with my clients to set to music. Like it's being in partnership with my husband and you know dancing the dance of being alive as a co-creative being.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's where my joy really is, and when I'm not in that state, I experience the lack of joy.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
notice it. Like if I feel like I'm in a silo,
Yeah.
it feels kind of weird. I don't mind being alone. I love being alone, but that's not the same thing as being in sort of an echo chamber.
Very true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you think of an example with a client where you were able to witness, obviously, their transformation in, I think in your words, clients feeling fully alive and aligned, right, with their humanity and their work. So bring us to a scenario, obviously anonymously. What does that look like in Wendy's world?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, probably one of the most wonderful experiences in
Mm,
my coaching world has been working with a client who was a former teacher and a former pastor, uh, who um, took a sabbatical and had a hiatus from that work, and really got in touch with the true source of his purpose that lived underneath those callings. And in that work,
mm,
um, there was a lot of burnout and a lot of one directional giving, and then him reaching out to me saying, I see you're a coach. I've known him for a while, but I see you're a coach, and I have this thing, and I've been laying really low, honoring myself, and I'm ready to birth this thing. Would you be interested in doing it with me? And I was like, Absolutely." And the thing I have loved the most working with him, and subsequently working with a lot of other people who have felt called in this very vulnerable way, who have also been burned by that calling, or so it felt at the time. Obviously, it's not the calling that's burning you; it's the way you negotiate your own, sanctuary when it
mm,
comes to that.
mm,
But navigating growing something from a concept to, I don't know, he's probably got 50,000 natural Instagram followers and people dropping into his world from all over the world. And he's got a healing modality that's making a huge impact. And he's just at the beginning. Seeing that, riding shotgun and navigating that, and that he is still so full of life and energy, and the source has not been blocked in order to do the thing.
mm,
The combination of that has just been one of the most beautiful,
mm.
I don't know, passenger rides. I'm a co-pilot with everybody I work with.
Yeah.
And so for me, that and subsequently, in learning just how big it can become for someone when they really honor that, and really stay the course with their own personal disciplines and showing up. And so it's drawn a lot of other clients in, and I've been able to hold a container for them, and it's just been really beautiful. And yeah, that's a story that's just been, and it's ongoing. So it's just a
Yeah.
great story. I
Sure.
love it. I love that it's like the ripple effect of all that is just so special to me.
Mm. So did he find what he was hoping to find?
He's he's killing it.
Love it.
I mean, he's spreading some really amazing he's helping people to heal themselves in this very beautiful, accessible way that is just so wonderful in
Mm,
this world, where we
mm,
feel fragmented and disempowered, and like we're trapped in our stories. And so he's really got away with it, and I'm just so happy that I've helped him clear the path and continue clearing the path to make a way
yes.
for it,
Yeah.
because it's good work,
Mm.
it's beautiful.
It's very, like I said, it's very, very rich, rich work. It's very noble work. I mean, what we do as transformational coaches, be it whether it's for business and personal, whatever. I mean, I'm very grateful every day I wake up that I put myself through the training, let alone, anything else to do it. And constant training, it never ends. It
No.
never ends. But it's a very noble profession. And I say that with a lot of humility and a lot of humbleness. It's very noble. It's not for everybody. It's not for everybody.
No, because we're always we have to have that. Our 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 clients are all we're also students of them. We have to bow to the things that they're teaching us about how to navigate with new stuff. I mean, that's the beautiful thing, is that it keep if we're doing it in that with that humility that you're talking about, I think it keeps us in a nimble and student mind where, we're able to see, that they're guiding us to higher realms
Mhm.
as we like co-create the co-creative process. Like
Yep.
we're co-piloting these journeys together. And um it's not a vector, it's a spiral or something.
Yeah, no, it's for sure. Whew. So let's talk a little bit about intuition. So share a story where, and I know there's many of them, but share a story where you absolutely followed, you knew you were following your intuition that created a very fulfilling result.
Okay. So um maybe 2014 or so, about the same time that I had made that record and gotten that Coca-Cola ad, I was sitting with a friend in Oklahoma who's a coach and a dear friend, and a glass worker, a very talented artist.
Oh,
And she had a big, wonderful studio, and she's like, "Let's make a vision board and let's do some glass art." And
yes.
I was like, "Great, let's do it." And I made this. I was traveling at the time, so it was a foldable vision board. I
Okay,
have it.
good.
It's in a folder right there. And in it, I mean, I must have been 34 or so at the time, and I was reaching a point with my life where, I really was yearning to be partnered. I was yearning to become a mother. I had done a lot of work with my own codependency and had really cleared out a lot of the bad habits, and
Mm,
gotten a lot of great mentoring from people who were ahead of me in that game. Um, so I was ready, in a sense, to start dreaming of what that could look like for me, because I just never really given myself permission. So I made this vision board, and it's beautiful. I should go grab it and show it to you. It's kind of crazy because
mm,
uh, fast forward maybe, I don't know, a year and a half, and I'm at a concert with one of my close friends and her brother, who I'd known for, I don't know, 12 years. And my friend, I'd known her for, oh gosh, at that point, 15 or 16 years or something. And we were just at a concert and we were hanging out, and he and I like laughed at something, and I was just like, I'm getting a weird download that I'm like supposed to like be your forever person and have your babies. But I didn't say it out loud. I just
right.
thought it in my head, and I just got this like, is this guy the guy? Because I mean, I just um and it was weird because I it was my friend. I mean, we went to punk rock shows together and like had our own like buddy thing. And his sister was one of my absolute best friends. I was in her wedding, and I mean, like, roommates from early days in Austin. And I just was like, it's a weird download. And like nothing happened, but it stayed there. And he's my husband now. And we didn't even ever date. We started uh hanging out, and I was on the road living out of my van. I mean, it was not a time where I could be dating or
Mhm,
partnered, and
mhm.
literally touring year round. And then I was just like, is this it? And I bought this camper, uh and I said, hey, do you want to work on this camper with me? I need to build a deck. And he's like, sure. So, but we were just still just friends. And then at some point we
It just,
just
yeah, came
became
more
a
than that.
couple.
Yeah.
And everything in my vision board, including like, it was random, like all the things. Like I looked at it maybe a year later, and I went, well, this has all come true. I guess I need a new one.
Ah,
But it was insane. Like, it was crazy. The pictures were so weirdly specific, and um even like I had random other kids in it that I guess are my bonus kids. So,
there they are, the bonus
uh,
kids. Wow.
Yep, it was all in there, and the gardens and the
Uh-huh.
pollinating things that we have in our yard. And
Mm-hmm.
It was bizarro, and the peacefulness and the wholeness, which I didn't think could also be with relationship. I hadn't had a relationship like that yet. So it was all a dream. And so, yeah, that,
Isn't that fabulous? Or to me, yes, it was definitely intuition, and you were manifesting. You were
yeah.
in that manifesting mode. I love
And the
it.
funny part about that was I was also just trusting. Like I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
crazy or go,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it did what it did over the time that it took to do it in its right time. And it was so funny
It was
that we had
natural.
been orbiting for so long, but we, had other things
Yeah, sure.
that brought us there. So yeah, it was manifesting,
Very
and
natural. Mm.
patience and intuition all
Mm.
together. Yeah, I
Great
guess that's one
story.
of the stronger ones.
No, I love it. It's a very, appropriate story. It's just it fabulous.
It was weird. I just
Mm.
was like, oh my gosh.
I
I know
did
what
it.
band was playing. I know exactly what was happening. It was like,
Hmm.
this is that. Oh,
Oh,
hey.
yeah, that is definitely manifesting. So that's beautiful. Good for you. I love that. All right. So in then our closing, couple things. So, based on obviously your very rich tapestry life, right? What key advice can you give on the creatives listening?
So going back to that um woo woo sounding thing, the flow state,
Yeah.
and I'll define that.
Hmm.
Just paying attention to when things feel easy. And I don't mean easy in like the easy road, but easy like hard things feel easy. Big things feel less complicated. Opportunities come knocking that you didn't pursue, and maybe doors open when you're not expecting them. And I guess more than paying attention to the details of those things, pay attention to the way you feel in your body when those things are happening, because so often that's the chemistry and the mental and emotional like merging of true joy, true fulfillment. And it doesn't always happen in some big, fluffy, crazy vacation. It is just noticing that something was easy, something was fun, something felt intuitively really good and made you want to do a little more of that, please. Because that's the state of fulfillment that we're always, quote unquote, striving for, right? That's why we do the
Mhm.
hard things. We're looking for that sensation. So acknowledging when it's happening and kind of just taking a moment to like feel it and celebrate it
Nice.
and just be in it, because I think that helps us to really not just savor but recognize, like when we do the Mojo tracks, one part of the the affirmation is a little, it's, they're not like I've got this, they're like the me I want to become is speaking to me from the future saying I am this. And there's the reason why we do this in an audio format with their own voice is for them to hear themselves
Nice.
speaking from the future
Yeah.
about what's possible. And one of the reasons why we have this track is to be able to notice, if you listen to it each day, you notice when those things are already happening in the world.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, this is that thing. And that's it. Just notice that thing when it's
Yeah.
happening in an instant, because those things accumulate into that person that you're becoming.
And that right there is I find is the key to, transformation and evolution is being the observer of your life and noticing those things that you talk about. right? Being aware, being conscious. So, we can want to manifest, we can want to have a fulfilling life, but until we can be the observer and actually, there it is.
Yes.
That's it, because it can pass us right by.
It can just go right by. And then you have to talk with your coach, and your coach says, give me 5 things that prove that wrong.
Yeah.
Give me 5 examples of your last day that say that just illustrate that that's not a true belief, a true
Right.
thought, a real thing. Or you can notice it when it's happening and and go, oh, there it was. I
Yeah.
felt that way for like that split second. I felt that good feeling. There it was. Like in your yoga practice where you're like, right, exhale. Oh God, this is what it feels like to, and boom, it changes. Your breath changes, everything changes. But that's why yoga, they really bring you to that observer state. And it's such a beautiful place to
Mhm.
find yourself if you can, because you're right. The desire, well, you can just let desire lead you around like a
Sure.
carrot on a string forever,
Right.
or you can savor the smell of the carrot. I don't know.
It's just, yeah, being conscious. It's just helping people be very conscious that, okay, so you say this is what you want, if you will, to manifest. Make sure you, as I say, either follow the breadcrumbs, follow the yellow brick road,
Mm,
and notice it when you're there.
yeah, that's
Notice it
it.
when you're there. So super. I just
That's so beautiful.
love it. Love that.
What a
So
gift.
fantastic. So talk to us. Besides, where can people get in touch with you? You just had a new album release.
I did. I released a 9-song album called Paradigms 2 month and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a beautiful collection of songs that sort of represent some of the milestones of life that bring us to grow and change. Some songs about motherhood and loss, and it's kind of a grown-up record.
Oh,
It's got feels, looking forward in the middle of your life and looking back and wondering, uh,
mhm.
observing how you've come here. So it's beautiful. I'm proud of it. I've worked with multiple producers on it. I did it in a very unconventional way. And of the songs, 6 were produced by women, which is pretty fun. Um,
Okay.
yeah, it was a beautiful
Mhm.
collaboration for lots of musicians, lots of different collaborative partners. It's beautiful. Please check it out.
Okay.
It's
And
called
where
Paradigms.
where can people hear it?
Everywhere.
Everywhere. You name it. Amazon.
Everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Spotify.
Wherever you hang out with your music, it's
Great.
there.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So yes, where can you're obviously on all the social media channels, and I'll have all that in the show notes, by the way. Um, where let's see, so YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. And then is there anything that you'd like to offer the listeners as far as a
Oh,
special or
yeah, sure.
Mhm,
What I'm really jamming on right now, we're
mhm.
it's really fun because I've been doing Mojo tracks with all my clients, but we're ramping up for the launch of that. So if anybody wants to get in on getting their own Mojo track, which is involves, basically sharing all of your desires of your heart and soul and professional life and home and relationships and health, and then crafting with me the affirmations that call those into being and recording those, and then we pick out some music that works
Ah,
for you, and I pull it all together so that you can have it, and I help you to understand when the best times of
nice.
day based on your brain and all the stuff it is to use them.
Ah,
Um and and I'll if you just email me and say you heard the podcast, I'll cut $50 off a Mojo track and the whole experience.
well, thank you for that.
Yeah,
So you heard that, everybody. All the info will be in the show notes, but I think you just want them to email you, right?
just email me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just email her. Okay. Yeah, wonderful. So thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for
It's
being
great
here.
to connect. Thank you for hosting me. I'm a follower now.
Yeah, good. Well, it's kind of the, soul sister type of thing. It's we understand each other, we understand, the language and so forth. So we can obviously share that together. And I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Marla.
Yes, thank you. So, all right, creatives, I want you to ask yourself, how can you express yourself even more than you do? But first, ask your intuition, not your logic. Sit quietly. You just heard a wonderful story of Wendy, right, who was expressing, as I said in the very beginning, how she expressed herself in all these different ways. But she was in my opinion, in her genius zone, right? And allowing that to flow, allowing that to come. It's, I also call it the divine downloads, is
Mm.
allow it just to come. Don't force it, right? That's the feminine versus the masculine, and that's an energy, it's not a gender. All right. So yeah, sit quietly, ask your intuition, how can you express yourself even more authentically, even more joyfully, even more creatively? It's in there. Promise. I promise you that. Right? Okay. Everyone, hope this was helpful for you, inspiring. It was for me. So you have a wonderful rest of your summer, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care, everybody. See ya. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for listening. You can find more entrepreneurial stories and resources at marladiane.com. And while you're there, enjoy my free downloads to uplevel your business and your life. And Instagram. It's my favorite place to hang out. Let's connect there. If you received inspiration from the episode, I'd sure appreciate a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Until next episode, take care.